Anyway, so that was a fun thing that happened. One other thing before we get started is a viewer of mine sent me a really short video, and I kind of just want to watch it real quick. Share the tab. And so one of the topics that we do cover on this channel, again, is queer Marxism. Gender ideology is under queer Marxism, the idea of like trans and all this stuff. And the main goal of the far left when it comes to gender is that they want to abolish gender entirely. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Non-binary means no binary. It's a reference to abolishing men and women entirely. How many people in the chat understand what I mean? Okay, so one in the chat, if you understand what I mean when I say the left wants to abolish the gender binary. Two in the chat, if you don't understand yet and you would like me to do just a brief little refresher on this so that you can understand what I'm talking about. I'm really trying to be mindful that there are a lot of new people watching my content. And I want to give people, I want to make sure we're teaching people, guys. And I want everyone that's been watching my content for a while too, make sure everyone is patient with the new people that are here, because they're new to this. And there was a time when you were all new to this. And so I want to make sure that we're teaching everyone and we're bringing everyone along. Okay. I'm being so nice to new people right now. You guys don't even know. The veterans on my channel will tell you I am usually not this nice to anyone. But I'm being very nice to all my new subscribers right now because I don't want to scare you guys away yet. You haven't really even dug into the content yet. You're new. We're breaking you in. We're breaking you in like a new shoe. Okay. All right. Let me just get. I think I got a super chat. Yup. Hey, poetry painter. Yup. Hey. Hey, girl. Hey, Jill. Hey, Jill. I better send Nick Fuentes another super chat, girl. All right. The brief explainer for what the left wants to do in regards to gender. The left believes that capitalism, which they define as private property ownership, created the socially constructed concepts of gender. That means the capitalism created men and women. They believe that the categories of men and women are fake, made up categories based on the cultural model of capitalism, which put men in the workplace where they had access to all the power and all the money. It put women in the home where they did the unpaid labor of having and raising the next generation of workers. That means the children. And because of that, that created a hierarchy when it came to gender, with men on the top and women on the bottom. And the left believes that all hierarchies create oppression, all hierarchies create suffering, and capitalism is the thing that created this hierarchy. This is also known as the patriarchy. Every time you guys hear the left say the patriarchy, this is what they're talking about, okay? Capitalism created the patriarchy. So how do you solve this problem? If you believe that if you want to abolish capitalism, as the left wants to do, and you believe that capitalism put men and women in different categories and one category oppresses the other, how do you solve this problem? Well, the solution the left has is to abolish the categories. That's how you get rid of the hierarchy. You get rid of hierarchies when you abolish the categories. When you abolish the categories, you abolish the idea of men, you abolish the idea of women. Non-binary means literally no binary. Whenever you hear the left talk about things like beyond the binary, and we're going to watch this video and we're going to see what it says, what they're talking about is transcending or transforming gender to get rid of men and women entirely and create something that is not created by capitalism. That's essentially what that means. That is what they believe. You don't have to agree with them to understand them, but that is what that means, okay? Now we're going to watch this video beyond the binary and we're going to see what it says. Okay. This video is meant as a short, very basic introduction to gender beyond the binary. That's exactly what I just explained, for people who have never heard of it or do not know much about it. It is very simplified and does not aim to represent the complexity of reality, but rather to give a basic understanding of what non-binary gender is.
Ah, yes. The male. Confident. Strong. Well, something like that. And over here we have the female. Sensual. Mysterious. But not always. And what are you? Yes, you! Well then, you might be what we call a non-binary. But before we can understand what a non-binary is, we first need to know what binary means. The word binary describes a system of two options. It's one or the other. Non-binary means everything that doesn't fit into such a system. In recent years, there's been a whole bunch of people that helped make gender beyond the binary more visible. Whether they dared to express themselves regardless of gender norms, they were representing their gender identity, or they worked on the inclusion of non-binaries in speech. So what is gender? A person's gender is made up of three aspects: their sex, their gender identity, and their gender expression. Sex describes the physical sex you were assigned at birth, what's between your legs. Gender identity describes what you identify as on the inside, regardless of what sex you were assigned. Gender expression describes the way you express yourself, so the way you dress, act, etc. For most people, all three of these happen to more or less match one of the binary genders and conform to what is expected from that gender in our society. But they don't have to correlate, neither with one another nor with a person's sexuality. A non-binary indeed, huh? Well, then you get to choose your pronouns. There's a lot of pronouns besides he and she that you can use. Some of them were generated by people who felt the existing ones weren't accurate enough to express themselves, whilst others were pulled from already existing language, like they, them. If you're not sure which pronoun someone uses, just ask them, or use their name. So, let me introduce you to some other non-binaries. Whether you identify as genderless, as both binary genders, as a completely different gender, as a bit of all those things as they come and go, or you just don't know. In the end, gender is fluid and is experienced in as many different ways as there's people on this planet. What counts is that you can be you.
So that is what the left teaches kids in school regarding gender. Well, we just watched in this video, and this video is 8 years old. It's 8 years old. But I promise you, they've been teaching this stuff in schools long before that. So a lot of people think a lot of people will use the term groomer, right? I used to use this term a lot more. I don't use the term groomer as much now because when most people use the term groomer, they're referring to sexualization of children. Now, I'm not saying sexualization of children doesn't happen. It does happen, absolutely. And it's a problem and it should be dealt with as soon as possible. But what I also want people to understand that most of what the left is doing in regards to gender ideology isn't actually sexualizing kids. Sexualizing kids is not the goal of gender ideology, regardless of what people might say to get clickbait on the internet. The real goal of gender ideology, especially in schools, is to convince kids that gender does not exist, to convince kids that gender is fluid, that you can change your gender as easy as changing an outfit. That's what Drag Queen Story Hour is really about. Drag Queen Story Hour is not about sexualizing kids. Drag Queen Story Hour is about teaching kids when they're very young that gender does not exist. Okay? And so that's the actual enemy. Because right now, a big problem that we have is somewhere around like 40% of kids in high school right now actually don't believe that gender is a real thing. If the left's goal is to abolish the gender binary, then you can't create a law saying men and women don't exist and you're not allowed to think that. That's not how they're going to do it. The left thinks about these things in the long game. They make small iterative changes over time, and they wait for those changes to play out over the course of decades. They are teaching an entire generation of kids right now that gender is non-binary. Gender is not real. You can change your gender like changing an outfit. You can change your pronouns every single day. They're doing this so the kids grow up believing these things are just socially constructed. They're made up. And that is how they're going to abolish the categories of men and women. And the reason they're trying to abolish the categories of men and women is it gives them better access to try to abolish the nuclear family. And again, I mentioned this earlier, they literally wanted to abolish the nuclear family because they believe the nuclear family is the social reproduction mechanism of capitalism. So that's a lot, especially if you're new. But that was a good video, and I want to thank the person who sent that to me because I appreciate that we had a minute to watch it.